Hi everybody, welcome to Whack Roll Vagabonds. My name is Luke, I'm the GM, and I'm only surviving this spring with a supply of antihistamines that never seems to run out.
And I'm Al, I'm the Queen of Bugs, and I am a player in this game.
Oh, I love the fact that neither of us know what the fuck to say about this.
Well, you can't just go giving the game away.
Alright, so we open on an elderly lady alone in the darkness of a swamp, surrounded by the growling and hissing of creatures gradually getting closer. What does she do?
Well, at first she's in disbelief at what she just gave up, so she's going to attempt to cast, I don't know, some spell I don't have anymore because I got rid of that sheet.
We'll say wild shape because that's going to be the most obvious.
Oh
thing
yeah, of course. She gets on her hands and knees and tries to will the spirit of the forest to act through her as a conduit and change her shape. And obviously, nothing happens.
Nothing happens.
Dick all.
You said that the elderly lady gets on her hands and knees, which does look a little ridiculous in the middle of the swamp, and it's not pleasant. The ground is marshy and gross.
I mean, well, okay, but you've got to imagine she draws her power from nature. She wants to get as close as possible.
Yeah, and I think that, like, it genuinely feels like a voice isn't there and it's always been there. Like, something that's always been a part of the woman is no longer there.
Yeah.
It feels weakening. It feels, like, almost pathetic in a literal sense. Like, you are powerless, alone, and you also know that in terms of this swamp, you are trapped.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Well, luckily, one of my items is, what is his name? That's kind of insulting, but I can use the Aasimar halo that I have as a light source. So I'm at least not completely lost, and I can see where, like, I think her instinct is to keep moving until she cannot move, because to stay still would be to act as prey.
I like it. Yeah, so you pull from like a satchel this perfect like light mist, and when you hold it out, it hovers just above your hand, and it creates a weak but like beneficial light that allows you to carve like some sort of track through the swamp. It takes a lot of hacking with your sickle, and like it takes a lot to like pull your feet from the mud, as with every step it feels like the swamp is trying to pull you under.
Yeah.
You walk for a good, like, half an hour to an hour, and whenever you move, you always wind up in the same spot. Mm-hmm. You always wind up in the same sort of clearing that you started this in.
Christ.
I think that you try a couple of times. You keep trying, as you say, you don't want to stop moving, but every time you do, you wind up back in this area. After around your 5th or 6th time walking back, when you come to the clearing, you hear this loud hissing noise coming from a rotting fallen tree nearby.
Ooh, fierce.
What do you do?
Tentatively approach, listening all the while.
Okay, you approach the log. As you get close, you take a couple steps, couple more steps, and then after a second or two, 4 giant centipedes around the length of your arm and thickness of your arm crawl out and run towards you.
This must be killing you.
Yeah, I hate this, but thanks for that. Could you roll initiative, please?
Jeez. Well, that's not great. That's 10.
Okay. So, the centipedes swarm towards you, and let's see now. Can I ask for Yaga's AC, please?
16.
16, cool. Alright. So, the 4 centipedes, like, sort of, like, swarm around your feet. They move faster than the lady can react. They wind up, like, crawling on your, like, shins, but you kind of, like, swipe at them with your sickle, and while they do seem to be trying to bite you, you manage to knock them all off before any of them get a good chomp in.
Good.
It's your action.
Melee.
Okay, give me a melee attack roll.
Yep. I'm just reading up on the extra effects that my sickle has. Okay.
Yeah. Now, what I'm going to say here is, you do not. Your attack modifier right now, regardless of what's on your sheet, is going to be Dexterity +2, as at this point you are a level 1 character.
Right. Okay.
So your proficiency modifier is +2.
11.
11. Roll damage.
So 8.
8. Your sickle cleaves one of the centipedes in twain. Its body twitches for a second or two, and then settles.
Just the one?
Yep, just one.
Ugh, fine.
They are each individual one is an individual enemy that you have to kill.
All right.
Okay. The remaining 3 hiss louder, and all 3 of them land their attacks.
Excellent.
So you take 21 points of damage.
Fucking hell, man.
Yeah, it's 3 enemies crawling at your shins.
You don't have to make it that. You are the master of the of the game. You decide this.
Yeah, I did decide this. It is Yaga's turn again.
Whoop. Oh, I rolled the same fucking thing. 11.
That's another hit.
Yeah. And same again. 8.
Nice. Consistency is the old lady's thing.
Sure. This is my forte now.
Another one
Bites the
gets... Yep, another one, you just, point the point of your sickle goes straight through, the head of it, and, it twitches around, flailing on the metal for a bit, and then falls still.
Nice.
Oh my god, that's another nat 20.
I hate you with all of my being.
I've changed dice. 15 points of damage.
15. Okay.
Okay, your turn again.
Yeah. Come on, give me the same. Ooh, that's even better. That's a fucking 18.
That hits.
Yeah,
damage,
imagine.
please.
Damage. What is it? 8, so it's 9 now.
I think you're growing weaker, as these, bites. You can feel, the, lumps in your leg begin to swell up with, probably some sort of, weak venom.
Yeah.
And, you're getting, cumbersome. This one, it takes, almost, a couple swipes to, really get through the carapace of the centipede, but it does eventually, cleave a twain. This one also hits. For 3 points of damage.
Alright, well. Okay.
Okay, and your turn.
11 again.
Hits.
And that's a 7.
7. I think wearily, the old lady, doesn't even, kill it with, the blade of her sickle. Rather, holds up the handle in both hands and then just brings it down and crushes the last centipede.
Sweet.
She is panting as she hears more hissing sounds coming from the same log. You look up and it looks like hundreds of them are starting to crawl out of the tree. Just as it seems futile, you hear a rustling in the woods behind you.
Better the devil you don't than the devil you know. Because the devil I know has nearly killed me.
You turn towards the woods.
Yes.
And a ginormous peacock hurtles out of the woods and it stands in front of you. You have never seen a bird like this before. Nope. You've never seen one this large. You've never seen a peacock wear glasses.
Or any bird.
Yeah. And then as it turns to you, you've never heard a peacock talk. The bird looks at you and says, I have been sent to help. Phalark sent me. I know, it's a bit shocking. But just trust me. Phalark sent me. He peers down his sunglasses at you. We don't have many options, elderly one. Granya's grasp here is tight. My mistress asked for your permission to help you. She has granted me the ability to strike a deal on her behalf.
Ugh.
The deal is simple. I will take you away from this swamp for 1 copper coin. Do you agree to this?
Yes.
Do you give the bird a copper coin?
Yes, I do. Of course I do.
The copper coin, you ping a copper coin into the air. The bird, raises its huge wings and sweeps them forward. A gust of wind, blows through the swamp. It hits the centipedes and they fly away into the darkness in a cloud. And then the coin lands in front of you and the wind pushes you forward. As you kind of like gain your footing again, you find yourself suddenly seeing something that you've not been able to see in the swamp around you. You can see the sort of paths that Theb was following in the last session. These sort of like very rough tracks that constituted paths that you really had to see to understand. You can in fact see 4 of them. All 4 of them converging directly where you now find yourself standing.
Of course.
Euripides looks at you and says, "You'll need to find your own way back, elderly one. Where you're going is safer than here, but it's still a treacherous place for mortals. Stick to the forest. Trust yourself and no one else. The path is there. You just need to find and believe in it."
I just nod.
This gust of wind is still blowing really hard, and it starts to pick up and pick up and pick up until it's like biting at your skin. The leaves from the canopy above you begin to fall, and all it takes is for you to blink, and you find yourself in a frozen winterscape.
Whoa.
What do you do?
Okay. Can I roll perception?
Yeah, go for it.
15.
15. Is there anything specifically you're looking for?
Just to kind of get a sort of general lay of the land, do I see, I don't know, hopes of shelter, like, anywhere that looks more sheltered from the elements than else?
So, what I will say is that would actually be a survival check.
Oh, well, that's on wisdom as well. For God's sake, I had proficiency on both anyway, so it was actually, no, 18.
18. Okay,
Yeah.
grand. That's really good. Okay, things you need. Shelter, warmth, food, really fast.
Mm-hmm.
You are not dressed for this sort of, like, cold. Where you were was quite a humid, temperate swamp. Now you're finding yourself in the biting, like, wilderness. You kind of look around yourself, and, like, it's very difficult to see. The trees are very thick here, but you can see that, like, the landscape kind of raises up, and you can see that you're kind of at the foot of what looks like some sort of, like, large hill or mountain. And you think that your best bet is going to be to fall towards there and hopefully find some sort of cave.
Cool. Love a cave.
You start to, like make your way through the wilderness. Like, the snow in places can go up to your waist, and it is not a pleasant walk to by any means. You find a few tracks here and there as you're walking. Things like rabbit and deer, which means that there's probably something that you can use for food.
Yeah.
Whether that's the creatures themselves or the berries that they are eating. Mm-hmm. You eventually make yourself to the foot of that mountain, and yeah, you were hoping, you find a cave. What do you do?
Probably investigate or perception for, like, danger.
That would be another survival check.
Survival,
You're going to be making
so.
a lot of these today.
I imagine so, yes. Good thing I've got +6 on survival. That's 17.
Ooh. You kind of, like, make your way towards the mouth of the cave. You take a moment. You really try to focus in on what you're looking at, and what you see is that, like, it does look like there was some sort of, like, claw marks around the entrance, which means that something probably lived here once. Mm-hmm. But you're not seeing any fresh tracks, anything like that. You think this cave is uninhabited.
Excellent. Okay.
So, it's not a large cave by any means.
No.
It's quite humble. It's, like, maybe around the same size as Yaga's shack. Like, one room, like, not huge. I think there's almost, like, a moment where you're kind of like, this is very much like my home already. And it almost brings, like, the first sense of, like, safety and security you've had in a while.
Nice.
You are going to be living in this area for a while. Mm-hmm. I think it's, like, quite late in terms of the day.
Yeah.
But what would the old lady's goals be? Immediate goals for her survival?
Next step is fire, but I do have the hearth gauntlet, which is a source of heat. And
I gave you some items that made this way too easy for you.
You fool. Well, I'm just thinking, like, because I'm not in great shape health-wise, and it's late in the day, I'd rather, like, rely on that for now and, like, forage for firewood, like, come sunrise.
Cool. I think what you managed to do is, like you make sure you put the gauntlet on, and, like so long as you kind of, like, keep, like, moving it around your body enough,
yeah,
like, you can feel yourself kind of, like, thawing out in essence.
Mm-hmm.
It's not comfortable, like, it's not, like, that great, but you are able to create, like, warmth enough to survive the night.
Yeah.
You end up, like, falling asleep, like, very much like like fetal around it, like holding it as close to like as much of it as you can for warmth. The next morning, the weather is glorious. There's like the slightest like snowfall.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it is a fresh day. The area around you is like covered in trees, so it's not going to be difficult to find firewood.
Yeah.
You manage to pluck a few trees out early and get into your cave to make sure that the branches have enough time to dry off for firewood. Mm-hmm. Is there anything else you want to do today?
We locate some good sources for animals in terms of food and pelts, because consistent warmth is important too.
Survival check then.
Yup. Please don't fail me on any of these, please, dice. Okay, this is 16.
You're really making the ones that matter count.
Yeah.
Like please find shelter, please find firewood, please find food. They're working for you.
Clothes.
Yeah. I think that you I think you're wandering the forest for firewood at one point, and you're trying to think to yourself, right, what can we do for food? At which point you kind of hear like a snap nearby you. Mm-hmm. You kind of get low, keep yourself quiet as you can through the snow, and find yourself at a watering hole.
Right.
There's like a pond which has not frozen over fully, which means that it's a constant source of water, and it looks, as you're there, like you see like at least 2 reindeer.
Right.
Using the pond for like water. So you think that you can probably set trap around here, and quite a few of the local fauna would wind up there eventually.
Yeah.
So next thing you have to do is find a way to kill one.
Okay. Well, I don't have ranged weapons yet. unless my next step could be fashioning myself a fucking bow.
Yeah, that is actually absolutely something you could potentially do.
And in the meantime, subsist on flora.
That'll be another 2 survival checks, please.
Excellent. Okay. I just don't know. Right. Well, that's a 19.
So that'll be for the bow.
And that's a nat 20.
Jesus Christ!
So 26 altogether. I love these dice. You bought me these.
Oh, they're good ones. So, yeah, I think first things first is you're looking at some of the firewood you've already gathered. You've maybe found some vines or something like that near the mouth of your cave, and you've used those to almost fashion almost some straps for your back to carry wood on. And then you realize that with what you've got there, you can probably create a very, very rudimentary bow out of them.
Yeah.
So you fashion one together. It will be a short bow, which is 1d6 damage.
Okay.
Normally, but we'll say it's a 1d4 because you're not going to have flint for arrows right now. Mm-hmm. You have just sharpened wood.
Yep.
And then as you're doing this, you're thinking to yourself, you're looking at some of the branches as you're going through it, trying to find the right ones, and you have a sudden click, a realization. One of the branches that you're using, the root of the tree is very tuberous and starchy. It's almost the same as a potato.
Sweet.
The roots around here, and you look around, and the majority of the trees, you're going to be able to get a potato-like root out, more or less, consistently.
This is important to me as a person. Is this food which I would recognize from the place, from my home? Do I know it exists on the continent of Suchau? Because I don't actually know where the hell I am right now.
It is something you'd find on Suchau, yes.
Okay, excellent.
So, you've now got a pretty consistent source of food. Mm-hmm. Some way to hunt for, fur and warmth.
Yeah.
You've got firewood. I think that the woman is going to be able to survive for a while.
Cool.
Now, what we're going to do is we are going to time skip a little bit here. I'm going to ask, as you begin to settle into the survival aspects of what you're doing, what do you do during the day?
Survival is just a lot of waiting around. So you just have to spend time in your own head. And most of it I've spent kicking my own ass for being so stupid as to just wander off into the woods while I was on watch. So a lot of reflection.
I definitely think there's a lot of that as you are keeping yourself alive.
She's also not giving up on the idea that she does have some connection still to the powers of nature. So she's she's right back to her apprentice Yaga days and practicing the proper forms and the incantations, like the theory behind how she casts spells.
Yeah.
Because it became so second nature to her that it would just flow naturally, but she can't rely on that anymore.
No, I definitely think you do maintain a lot of, like, obviously Yaga was a druid, and like in terms of like Dungeons and Dragons, like druid is a source of magic, like is pulling like magic from like nature and all around you.
Yeah.
I think what we're seeing more of is like druidism as a religion. Like it is like, you know, taking care of the land, worshipping it, taking like not taking more than you need, and making sure that anything you take you use.
Yeah.
You know, there's like a lot of like naturalism and like a lot of like, you know, you plant certain flowers in certain places to, like, you know, remind yourself where you've been, little things like that. The old lady does that for a couple of months, like day in, day out. After those months, the snow begins to melt. Like you see it day by day that the snow is getting like less and less, and the weather is beginning to pick up as spring begins. As spring rolls out, you realize that you're going to have a lot of an easier time, one, getting most of the stuff that you need.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot easier to look after yourself. But two, it's going to be easier to navigate this place you found yourself in.
Sure.
What is it, like, again, what is the woman's next step?
Well, I didn't consider this until you just mentioned it. I think she would like to map out the area around at least where she's lived. But I know that'll be a long process, but we got a lot of time.
Vic, you take a moment and you're realizing what you need to do. You've got the ability to like use hide as sort of like a very rudimentary parchment.
Exactly.
And you find the source of, well, you can create charcoal.
Mm-hmm.
So you have, in essence, the ability to start mapping it out. Now, on the days where it rains and as spring begins, the rainfall begins to really sort of like hammer down. It's easy to travel in, but like just unpleasant.
It's just like home. I mean, in real life.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, you live in Glasgow now.
I do. Like, it's not pleasant to wander through, but it is feasible.
Yeah.
But every day you take a trek out, you figure out a new part of the land, and you make a note of it. For the most part, this area seems to be just forest. Forest all the way around.
Good.
And
I was told to stay in the forest.
As you do realise that, you also realise that this landscape shifts.
Oh no.
The features stay the same, and they always seem to cycle between certain spots. So, for example, the lake you found, you were always able to consistently find it, but sometimes it was like you stumbled upon it and you were like, it's a little bit closer than it was last time. Or sometimes it felt like you walked for 2 hours compared to half an hour and then eventually found it.
Huh.
I think that you always kind of like put it up to not knowing the terrain, not having a map, the snow making everything look the same.
Losing track of time.
And just also weary old bones. Like, some days, like, you walk slower and, like, you just kind of chalked up to that. But as you begin to map things out, you know, you start to make, like, marks on nearby trees, and those trees, like, those marks vanish overnight. And you realize that this world is changing. However, you also become aware of the paths.
Oh.
Much like you were taught very, very briefly by Theb, the paths are there. There are paths through this area, little walkways, little animal tracks, and you learn to spot and follow them carefully. And you always find it easier to find where you want to go by following one of those tracks.
Mm-hmm.
And they are the one constant in this entire place.
Oh.
So, one day you're following one of the paths. You've been here around 7 months. And you follow the path a little bit further out from the area you've been mapping out. You're maybe like just seeing, like doing a little bit of a stretch out. Walk to a certain point, see if there's any change in the landscape.
Yeah.
You find yourself at the foot of a decent sized hill, and you feel pretty good about yourself today. You feel like young and sprightly. The fresh air has been doing good for you. And you march your way up the hill just to get a lay of the land around you.
Mm-hmm.
Way, way off in the distance, so distant that it's just a mere speck, you see the largest tree you have ever seen. It spirals up miles and miles high. And in its branches, just barely visible from where you are, you see what you think to be buildings and lights.
Oh.
What do you do about this information?
Well, I'm not going there.
Okay.
Nice try. Because the only thing that got me out of the swamp was a weird peacock who did not introduce himself and just told me to stay in the forest. And that has kept me alive so far, so I'm going to trust it.
You look at it and you turn around, heading towards the path that you had been walking along.
Oh no.
For the first time, you begin to hear movement. Movement that is not the sound of animal tracks or anything like that, but the unmistakable march of footsteps. What do you do?
Ignore it and just stay, marching right ahead. I'm going to go straight back to my cave. That's just what I'm doing.
The footsteps are coming from that direction.
Oh, piss! Oh, I don't want to get off the path. I'm just gonna go in that direction still then. Fuck it.
Okay. As you begin to walk, you get to a point where the path almost does a long curve round. So you look to your left, and as you do, you can see 3 figures dressed in plate mail walking along the path towards you. It maybe takes them 2-3 minutes from this point to get to you. Could you roll perception for me, please?
Oh, Jesus. Perception is proficient, so that's 23.
You find a nice little hideaway that you can still be on the path, but you can get a good look at them hiding in a bush.
Uh-huh.
They are all dogs.
Oh God, no.
They are all the same sort of creature as Dan to the power of 7. They are hybrid human-like dogs with armor, and they are all holding kite shields with the symbol of Grania on them. Mm-hmm. What do you do?
Is this hiding place good enough for me to let them pass by unnoticed?
You can give it a shot. That would be a...
Stealth?
Yeah, stealth check.
Right. Dex modifiers +2. 15.
15. So, you do not know if that's a success or not.
No, I don't.
You are in a position where you think you can get yourself kind of bundled up small inside of a large shrub that's still just on the path. Your call. Do you wish to try to hide it out?
Yes.
You hear silent marching get closer and closer to your hiding spot.
I hold my breath.
And eventually you hear them pass straight by you. You stay in the bush maybe a minute or 2 longer than you need to, just in case for some reason they stop to top the hill or anything like that and will be able to turn around and see you.
Yeah.
And eventually you peek out and the path is clear again.
Oh, thank God.
You begin the long walk back to your cave. And eventually you wind up back home and safe, knowing now that you are not in an uninhabited world. That's the first sign of civilization you've seen.
Yeah.
And the first sign of any other life you have seen that is a creature rather than an animal. So,
sapient.
Yeah, sapient. Good word. Now we're going back to this favourite question of mine.
Uh-oh.
What do you do for the next couple of months now you know this?
I am extra careful about how I conduct myself around the path now. Extremely cautious at all times. I do not ever want to have to come face to face with any intelligent life that might be in this world, especially because they're walking dogs. But that's not Yaga's hang up. That's not her hang up, that's mine.
Yeah. The next couple of months, you keep to your regular chores, you keep yourself sane, but I think there begins to become this little nag in the back of your mind, which is you're not currently on a path getting home.
Shit, you're right.
I think maybe you wind up realizing that you have spent an entire year here as the next winter begins.
Right.
And you realize you're not going home in this way. You're just very much you found a home here. You've got yourself safe and comfortable, but
it's surviving, not living.
Yeah, I think there's that, but I also think there's almost this part of you that realizes that like there's a reason why you're doing it, which is very much you don't feel like you can go back yet because you're not anything.
Yeah.
Like you are.
What can I give now?
Yeah, like who is this person? Like, I think there's almost this moment where like, have you been referring to yourself by anything while you've been here?
Idiot, mostly. Like I said, she spent a lot of time kicking her own ass.
Yeah, and I think there's like that part of you that kind of kicks in where you're like, almost like the realization that after a year of since like your deal with Grania, that you don't have anything. You have the few skills you've picked up here and there while you've been here. Like you're quite happy with that. You've got decent with a bow. Mm-hmm. You can shoot a rabbit. They're going pretty fast from a decent way away. And like you've grown really good at making campfires and like a few other like crafty little things that you can do with like animal parts and just like flowers and roots. But like you're not able to cast a spell. You're not able to like transform into stench cow and scare off your enemies. Like you are just an idiot living in the forest. You don't even have a name.
No.
So the winter starts. Okay. What do you do?
Well, primarily just the idea is survive through the winter, and in the spring spend the winter preparing for spring, because in spring you're gonna march off and do some goddamn interacting, good or bad.
I think that you wind up putting in a lot more effort in the winter. So normally, like when it comes to you get enough to survive the day, maybe 2 or 3. Every day you are getting more than you need, so you can stockpile. Like you get jerky on for traveling and things like that.
Yeah, salted
to make
meats.
Sure you have some. Yeah, you have the ability to leave here when spring arrives. Give me a survival check to see how well that goes.
18.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, like it goes well. Like you are prepared for this. You know what you're doing now. You're like, this is your forest. Like
these are my words.
You know what you're doing. You're able to like follow the paths. Like you're like you become almost like a adept at skipping the path. So like not like maybe like following it for an extended amount of time, but like using the path and jumping off of it at certain points. Like you're able to like hop between different sections of path and like using the wilderness around you to like your advantage in how you move. I always think that like you move a little faster than normal, like than you used to, like a year later. After a while, spring comes around, and we see the lady with a large pack by her side on a very, very rainy day. What does she do?
You told yourself this was the day. You're going, rain or no.
Yep. She hefts it up, and she begins to walk.
I mean, if nothing else, the rain gives a good excuse to keep her face covered with her hood.
Mm-hmm. Where are you walking?
I'm gonna go up that hill and towards the giant tree.
You walk for a couple of hours. You eventually find yourself at the top of the hill, and you start to make the descent downwards. Eventually, yeah. So you walk for a fair amount, like, and you're always keeping your ears out for any signs of movement.
Yeah. And
you don't hear anything. Eventually, though, you're walking through like a new sort of area, like. You're walking alongside a river, and along the base of that river, these red speckled mushrooms are growing. They're actually very pleasant to look at. There's lots of little flowers like interwoven between them, and it's just quite a nice area. And then eventually, sitting atop one of those mushrooms, you see a small figure.
Oh.
He's only around a foot tall. He's got like quite withered skin, wears like a very basic green tunic and green trousers with a like pair of like very like large iron boots, and atop his head is a overly sized like red gnome's cap that like leans backwards, and beside him there's a large sickle in the ground. He's just sort of sitting there like whistling to himself. He hasn't seen you yet. What do you do? I'm
going to keep walking because I think a sudden stop would also attract attention. So keep walking, but like try and like cover my face with my hand more, like you're trying to avoid somebody, you know.
Yeah. You walk by, and I think as you do, you're very aware that the creature stops whistling and looks at you. You get like alongside him. He keeps watching, and you pass by him, and you think to yourself, "You've gotten away with this. Like he's not going to stop you." And then you hear, "Hey, elderly one, stop for a minute, will you?"
Okay. I stop and turn around.
He kind of like nods at you. His hands are not on his sickle at all. He kind of nods at you and goes, "Where's your allegiances lie?"
To the forest.
I think that like he looks at you for a second, like looks his head left, like tilts his head to the left a little bit, and he goes, "To the forest indeed." And like he produces like two like thimble to you sized like cups, and his hands are quite large. Scoops water from the forest, from the river beside him, and holds one out to you, and says, "Toast to the forest, then."
I would hate to be rude, so I take it, even though I'm gonna regret this. Let's do a shot of spring water.
He chugs his back.
I knock it back. Yep.
It's water, and like he kind of looks at you and says, like, "So, now the real answer.
Oh.
Are you with the court, or are you with them?"
I don't know who them are. I was not lying to you when I said my allegiances were to the forest. The forest is all I know.
You say that, and like, it's very much like the truth, but you don't feel in control of the words you're saying.
Oh.
You were made to tell the truth.
Oh.
And I think that the creature like says like, "You ain't from around these parts then, are you?"
Well, I'm compelled to tell the truth.
No.
No.
You're only compelled to tell the truth once.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm still gonna say, no, I am not.
Well, keep your wits about you. There's bad ones in the woods around here. Worse than me.
Oh, you're that bad, eh?
He grins, and you see he's got like this row of like razor sharp teeth inside his mouth. He says, "I've spilled more blood than you think, lassie."
How old do you think I am?
He says, "It'd be awfully rude for me to answer that, honestly. Now, tell me, what's your name?" Can't cut your tongue?
Well, I kind of forgot who I was over the last year or so. Just lived alone.
Huh. I think that the creature like looks at you with like they got these really long overgrown fingernails that are like starting to yellow and black in places, and he kind of like strokes his chin with it like a little bit, just scratching away at his like rough little skin, and he says, "Well then, elderly one, on your bike, on your way."
Good health to you.
"And good health to you too."
Okay.
And he just goes back to whistling on his mushroom. Like, I'm just going to say this now, infinite fun playing Dungeons and Dragons with Alison just by dropping fairies in front of her and see how she reacts.
Listen, it's like obviously I'm a scientifically minded person. You know, I believe in empirical data and shit like that. But there's just some things you don't fuck with.
And you don't fuck with fairies.
Yeah, I would never go to see a psychic or anything, but I'm not going to step inside a fairy ring. Fuck that.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Like, you see that shit, you're like, no touchy, no touchy.
Bad.
You make your way down the path some more, and like, you've been able to see this large tree grow larger and larger as you walk. Mm-hmm. And it's always getting closer, but like, it's getting closer at a rate that is like less than you would expect for the distance you're walking. And like, you walk, and it takes days. Like, you always are able to find like a nice little space just off the path where the path never leaves, because you are much more adept at spotting it, but you are able to, you know, keep your eyes about you, keep your wits about you, and you are always able to find the path again.
Yeah.
The more you walk, the more you are aware of other creatures on the path. To this point, and I think you've maybe walked for maybe 2 months at this point,
Oof.
You have never seen another patrol of those dogs.
Whew.
But you have passed a couple more of those little creatures with the red hats, that you've maybe had another similar interaction with them, but very similar. They ask you where your allegiances lie. They mention the court,
And
but
them.
you stick to the truth, which is you stick to the truth, which is you have no name, and that your allegiances lie with the forest.
Yeah.
And these answers always seem to appease them. None of them try to strike deals. None of them try to do anything that seems shifty to you.
Mm-hmm.
You are getting closer and closer to the city. I think maybe you've walked for 3-4 months now. As you do, you've seen other creatures in the path. You have seen 2 fawns walk by.
Nice.
Like, just human beings with goat legs and horns. And they are very much, like, keeping an eye on you as you do. A couple of fairy or pixies. You're not really sure what they are. But, like, that sort of, like, tiny human being with butterfly wings with glitter.
Sure.
Sprite lights.
Sneaky
they giggled
bastards.
at you as you walked past. Yeah. They giggled at you as you walked past. And you think one of them tried to nick something from your, like, pack. But didn't get away with it. You are now closer to that tree than you have ever been before. And I think that you are setting up camp one night when a centaur appears alongside you on the path. Like, he is taller than you, stands maybe like just taller than the average horse.
Sure.
Whatever size that is.
Oh. They measure in hands. It's really confusing.
I know, right? He's like, from the back half, he's just a regular, like, kind of like brown horse. His human torso is like very like golden chested. Like, he's got like this like long like black hair tied back in a braid, like stubble, and he wears like just very simple like leather and wood armor. And I think that you're just setting up camp nearby. He's on the path and he kind of sees you. He says, "Hail, woman. How are you this day?"
Fine myself. Can I help you?
"Can I ask where your allegiances lie?"
My allegiance is to the forest.
And I think when you say that, it very much piques his interest. "'Tis a noble thing to be allied with such a beautiful forest. Now, what say you of the court these fine days?"
I cannot tell you anything. I know nothing of it.
I think he kind of like looks at you a little more and he says, "Tell me, where are you from?"
I don't think my home forest had a name. I'm a nomad, good friend. I am from everywhere and nowhere.
The more you talk to this creature, the more he is very much interested. I think he says, "My lady, if I promise you no harm come to you, may I join you?"
You may.
And he nods. And like, you kind of like feel this kind of like tug a little bit. I think that, like, even though it's a very simple line, you're aware of that, like, that's a deal that's been struck, not just like a simple like sentence.
Yeah.
Like, he is going to be protective of you while he is in this, like, while he's in your encampment.
Yes.
So, yeah. He moves forward and he takes a seat and he says, "My name is Sir Squig Esquire. Tell me, what's yours?"
I don't really have a name anymore.
"Really? How intriguing. Tell me, lady, how did you find yourselves in our world?"
Well, the same situation which robbed me of my name, I'm afraid. It was my own stupidity.
"Tell me, how much would you be willing to discuss of your stupidity?"
Well, I've only been talking to myself about it for the past year. Maybe saying it out loud might help the wounds heal.
So, you said that you were going to, like, say it out loud. Are you telling him the story?
Yeah, I'm not going to mention that it was Grania with whom I struck the deal, but I will, like, basically be like, I was trying to traverse a swamp with some good friends of mine, and it was my duty to keep a lookout, and I was a fool, and I fell for the illusions that the swamp conjured, and I got caught and had to make a deal, and that's basically what led me here.
So you made a deal, and that deal was for what?
How do I put this as non-committally as possible? I exchanged my position in exchange for a small boy's life.
So how did you wind up in these parts?
I mean, there was a mysterious creature who conjured a great wind, and that is what I'm guessing brought me here. Honestly, it's a little bit foggy.
Sir Squig is very much kind of like, more and more like you talk, the more and more he seems to be peeking up. He's very much taking interest in your story. I think that he kind of looks at you and says, "Noble lady, I might be stepping my boundaries here, but I've heard of a deal very similar to yours.
Oh dear.
Words travel fast in these parts, especially when the one they call Gronya is involved. Is that name familiar to thee?"
Who can say? I'm very elderly and it's been a long time. Deception check.
Yep, go give me a deception check.
23.
Yep, you say it with a deadpan face, like very just straight, and like I think Sir Squig just kind of bows and says, "I understand. How much do you know of our world?"
My knowledge is limited to how much I should and should not, how much information I should and shouldn't offer up in conversation with the fair folk, and how to survive in my particular corner that I've been thriving in for the past year or so.
I am aware that some of my brethren can be deceptive in nature. I assure you I am not like them.
Can I kind of roll insight to see if I get a trustful vibe?
Yep, go for it.
Insight is on wisdom, so that's 22.
Your dice rolls are amazing today.
I love this D20 so hard.
What you get is, as you are talking to him now, he very much seems to be... like, it's hard to say for sure because he is still a Fey folk.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, and I think there's, like, always going to be a part of you that distrusts them.
Yeah.
But, as far as you're aware with Sir Squig, he seems to be fine. Like, he's chatting away. He doesn't seem to be, like, digging for more information for any nefarious reasons.
Yeah.
Like, he seems to genuinely just be wanting to talk about this.
Mm.
So, I think Sir Squig kind of like looks at you and says, "How about I tell you a story instead?"
I was just about to say, I've been yakking your ear off all this time. Please take the floor.
So, tell me, how many times have you been asked the question where your allegiances lie, and do you know what that means?
Every single being with whom I've come across in my travel has asked me. I've lost count. And I don't know what that means. I mean, I know what it means, but I don't know anything about the major players here.
Of course. So, there are two of what you call major players. There is the court, and he gestures to the tree that is like just peeking through a clearing like in the distance.
Mm-hmm.
They reside up there, led by a few of the nobler of our kind, Gronya being one of them. They're wise beyond belief, but sometimes they can be incredibly persistent on the wrong path, if you understand what I mean. And I think that, like Ken says, the other side of this, they do not have a name, but some just refer to them as the Resistance. A subset, a faction, if you will, who follow one of the oldest and wisest of the Fey nobles, but have long since been exiled by her own wishes. But they are considered enemies of the forest and enemies of the court. So, I think that he kind of like takes a long stretch of his arms and just kind of like looks at you from what he says. When they ask you where your allegiances lie, they're looking to find out whether they can trust you first or kill you on sight for gold and wishes. Wishes.
That'll be rich. I don't have allegiance to anybody. Nobody would offer up anything for my life, likely. I'm just a mortal.
Mortals have allegiances too. And
yes, but not in this realm. Well, not often in this realm.
You would be surprised. There's a war coming, and it's hard to say which worlds are going to be the most affected by it. There was a time long, long ago where war was everything. War was all that your world knew for sure. And there was a time before that when all people were at war. A time that I think that your people have long since forgotten. How much do you know of the Nine?
Have I been told about the 9?
You've heard the phrase before, I believe, but you potentially do not know about the Nine. Give me an Arcana check.
Ooh. I was never good at those, but it is my fucking broken dice, so 15.
The 9 refers to the 9 levels of hell.
Fun.
Or the 9 hells, specifically. There are 9 layers of hell, each led by a different demon lord, referred to there as the 9. The 9 can either refer to the 9 levels or the 9 beings in charge.
Sure.
They are almost synonymous. In a way, like, it's not basic knowledge, but like anyone with a knowledge of Arcana and a basic level of interest in planar stuff will know of it from a religious standpoint, because obviously bad souls go to hell.
Sure.
And like, I think that Sir Squid kind of says, long time ago, the 9 used to refer to the people, not the place. The place was your world, the material plane. A great army of angels and beings from across the planes saw the potential for the spread of their destruction and chaos and saved your plane from eternal torment by sealing those creatures away. Pieces are at play, and there is talk among our people, especially those higher up, and again, he very much looks towards the tree. He says, I believe the talk is that the 9 are coming back, that there are forces in play on your realm that intend to resurrect the 9 and bring them back to the world. The end times are coming, elderly one, and there's nothing a lot of us can do to stop it.
Sir Squig, do you know how I can return to my plane?
I think that he kind of looks at you and says, like, that depends. Where do your allegiances lie?
Made the mistake of having to deal with the court in my own world. The resistance.
I think that Squig stands up and says, then my lady, we fight for the same team.
Whew. I knew that's what you were doing to me.
I think that Squig says, I cannot send you back to your own world, but I know someone who can. But for now, I think he looks at you and says, is this the state that you wish to return in?
What the hell do you mean now? I'm level 1 and perfectly adequate.
I think he looks at you and says, tell me your name, creature.
My name is my own.
Then what can I call you?
I mean, I've been calling myself idiot for the past year, but that's not quite...
Then tell me, creature, do you wish to return to your world as idiot?
Well, no, but, like, my friends can call me something.
And I think he says, well, what would it take for me to call you friend?
Oh. I wasn't prepared for that. Break off this deal and promise not to harm me, not out of obligation, but out of affection.
I think he looks at you, like, I think that when you say, like, break the deal that you have, he's very much, like, shocked for a moment, and he just sort of, like, bows and says, it is done. I can introduce you to my mistress, the lord in charge of the rebellion. But it may take some time. Until then, perhaps I can impart some of my wisdom unto you. All I ask is your patience.
It's one of the few things I can readily give.
He bows, and I think for the remainder of that evening, you and Sir Squig just talk. I think there's a lot of, like, Squig tells his story. A knight of the court who was very much, like, who swore fealty to his mistress, one of the Fey nobles again, and when the sides split, when there was this tear in what to do next, he said that he did not have a choice in what he did. There was no way he could see himself going on alongside anyone else other than the person he trained with, he is sworn fealty to. And yeah, I think that he very much, like, tells a story about how since then they've been on the run. They do little jabs in and out, but most of what they do is protect. They protect themselves, and most importantly, and above all else, they protect their queen. And he's not really forthgiving on a lot of information, but that's the most part that he gives you. Is there anything on this night you wish to ask Sir Squig?
Would you offer me the name of your queen?
At this point, I cannot.
Very well. That's honestly all that springs to mind. This night has just been a wellspring of information. It's taken a lot to process, but before we turn in, you can call me Gran.
Very well, Gran. It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance. The next day, you wake up, and Sir Squig is already awake. Very much sort of still in your campsite, but like a distance away. Kind of like watching the area around. And then that day, Sir Squig takes you on a journey, and he says, he asks if you still trust that you would follow him.
And I do.
He takes you away from the court and deeper into the forest. You travel for 3-4 days. Most of this is just chitter-chatter between you. Until one day you reach a waterfall. And Sir Squig kind of bows towards you and says, please just step through there.
Ooh, I love waterfalls in video games. There's always treasure there.
Behind that waterfall, you find a huge cave. It's rather than like it being like one big cave, it's almost like a cavern behind it. So like it's like the waterfall's covering like this chasm that opens out into like an almost like open place. There's still like trees and like plants growing within here. And it just looks like a really pleasant place. And there's a few creatures wandering these places. You see, again, like a lot of the creatures that you've seen before. I think that you've had conversations about your time here with Squig, and he's revealed a few things. For example, you've seen pixies, satyrs/fawns, and redcaps. Redcaps were the little dudes with the scythes that you saw.
What about the dags?
And do you have a conversation with him about the dogs?
Yes.
Cool. He reveals what those are. They're dogs.
Great,
he
thanks.
says to you, like, one of the things that Grania does, a life for a life is her trademark, and one of the things she says is that a master will so soon turn on his companion when asked to strike a deal. Those companions that they surrender, she takes and she gives sentience. She gives a life to them, and they enroll in her army. They are loyal beyond belief. So yeah, they are regular dogs just offered up as parts of deals.
Gross. It's terrible.
It is. I find the immortal's capability to surrender that is most faithful to them to be quite disgusting.
You're right, but I mean, if immortal values anything more than the life of other things, it's the life of their own.
True, and I think there's something in that as well. This cavern that you find yourself in, I think when you enter, a lot of the creatures kind of like look at you quite scared, and they are like drawing weapons. And then Squig enters the waterfall from behind, and they all relax. And I think that he very much says to you, welcome to the Resistance. This is to be your home for a while now. I will go out and I will ask my queen whether or not she can send you home. Make yourself comfortable here. I will return in a few days. Do you have any other questions?
No, but keep safe.
He nods and says, you too. You can trust anyone here.
I'll take your word for that.
He rears his hind legs and takes off at a gallop. Well, what do you do now?
I mean, you know how it is to walk in not knowing anybody. It's fucking terrible.
It's awful.
It sucks, and you don't know what to do with yourself, but you want to be useful. Oh my god, sorry, I'm getting... I just started a new job like a couple months back, and like, it's nightmarish to wander around not doing anything and not knowing anybody.
Yeah. You take a lot of time to get used to them. I definitely don't think they trust you. Like,
sure.
They are a resistance force. Like, I don't think any resistance trusts a new person that just walks in through the door.
No.
But after a couple of days, like, you know, the first night, one of them very much does come to you and say, like, there's a space in a shack that you can, like, one of like these sort of like makeshift like houses that you can reside in. There's a couple of other creatures in there, like a red cap and a fawn.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, they very much sort of like, after a couple of days, they open up to you, and all it takes is for like one person to talk to the elderly lady, and like...
Everybody else suddenly has questions.
It ripples, like, trust ends up rippling through. you spent a few days talking to these people. How much of the information that you've already imparted to Squig do you impart to these people as well?
I'd probably give the whole story generally. Maybe even include the fact that I was an idiot who made a deal with Grania, but I did deceive them successfully.
Yes, I think that like the more you get into the storytelling, the more you verbalize this story, you
It
get to that
becomes
point where you
rehearsed.
realize,
It's a whole performance.
yeah, but more importantly, I think the focus becomes less and less on how you made a mistake and sold something away, but more that like you actually did succeed in tricking a fey queen. Like, and I think there's a realization there, like when you see like the shock and awe on some of their faces that you got one past Grania. Like you get a little point of where you're like, am I an idiot? Am I really? And like it
Still
takes a
wriggled my
moment or
way
two where,
out
like,
of it.
yeah, exactly. Like you got put in like a guillotine and you wriggled your way out. Like, and you almost become like, the more you tell this story of your mistake, the more you become proud of the parts of that mistake that actually weren't mistakes. You come to realize that there's more good in the story than there is bad. 2 weeks pass in this encampment. You get given a few chores here and there. A lot of like tending to this, gathering XY from the area around you. And you get to know a couple of the faces around here. And then Sir Squig returns one day. He looks tired. He's obviously had a long journey. And he asks for you to follow him.
I do.
He takes you to a small glade nearby where it's a little quiet. He says, okay, we can talk here. No one will overhear. I've spoken to my queen, and what she has told me is she's eager to send you back to the moment you came from.
What?
Time works differently here. We don't view the world the same. You may spend a long time here, and you'll have aged as you have here, but
Oh, right, bro.
we can send you back.
Rub it in.
We can send you back to more or less the moment that you were lost, but it may take some time. What I'm offering is we will do most of this on your behalf, but we have to have something of value in return. Nothing in this world comes free. My mistress has given me the ability to strike a deal on her behalf. Stay with us here as part of the resistance for a while. I will train you. And when you are ready to return, we will return you.
Is that all?
You protect us, we protect you. And then once enough has been done on this side to value your return, we will send you back. And I assure you, there is a value. It's not like one of these deals where you will not pay off the debt. We will send you back, I assure you.
He's talking, and I'm just like already nodding. I'm like, work off my debt. I am absolutely for this.
Okay. I think then he kind of I think he says to you, then let's get started. And he pulls out a sword from a sheath around his side and says, show me what you have, Gran.
I whip out my sickle. That's all I got.
Give me an attack roll.
Oh, well, that's not good. What happened? Yeah, it's only 9.
You swing your sickle at Sir Squig, which is actually quite a hard sentence to say. And what he does is he very much puts his sword like in the crescent of your sickle and flicks it out of your hand. And then like in one swift motion like holds the point of his sword like to your heart and pulls it back and says, you are not a fighter. Or
well, no.
I see fight in you. How would you fight before?
I was a druid. I had spells.
He says, and you have no access to these spells anymore. Is that correct?
I'm afraid I gave that up when I came here.
Then you have to learn to trust your body. You have to learn to fight tooth and nail, hand to hand. You have to learn how to read an opponent, how to find their weaknesses. We're going to do this again and again until you understand. Do you understand me?
Yes.
He bows and he gestures to your sickle. And Gran picks it up, and it takes hours and hours before you don't lose the sickle in your hand.
This is all very nostalgic. She's just like, oh man, I remember training.
Yeah, I think there's very much like that sort of idea where you feel like you are training again. I think a lot of the training that you had with Yaga, you don't remember it. like you have lost that connection. Like you remember the feeling of training, and you know it's part of what you traded away.
Mm-hmm.
But like you like, and I think there's like reassurance in that. But you don't remember the details. You can't remember like the kind of like taunting face that Yaga would pull at you every time she like would knock your stick out of your hand or like deflect a spell. Squig is very like stern faced as he trains you. Eventually, you get a grasp on like how to strike back. You're able to hold your sickle solidly after a week. After a month, you're able to graze him with an attack. And yeah, he trains you and trains you for months. And soon you become quite proficient in how to like use the thing in your hand.
Both hands.
And both hands, yeah. You eventually gain a couple of levels. So after maybe like what has been 2 years here in this world, you reached level 3.
Oof.
And now, I think this is a good point to say what you are now.
I'm a ranger, baby.
And I think that like you heard of like obviously rangers and hunters in our like in your material plane, and you kind of realize that you're starting to adopt that skill set.
They know the words. I know the words.
Yeah. It's like you realize that there is a way to be connected to nature that doesn't necessarily mean that you are like a druid.
Mm-hmm.
There's another thing you can do, which is to, rather than to be connected to it, there's like you can honor it. Like you can still be a part of this world, this ecosystem, without being so tied to it. Like I think you see your position less as like this inherent part of it and more as like its protector.
Mm.
And I think as you realize that, you begin to be able to like feel the magic in the air around you again, and you gain a different kind of spellcasting. You now obviously have at level 2, I believe, you would have gained your ability to cast hunter spells.
Yes, 2 or 3, I think.
So yeah, it's at this point you have 3 spell slots, but we are training montage at this point.
Yeah.
At another point, like after like this 2-year marker, I think you're having a spar with Sir Squig, and like you and your sickle, like you're very fast. Like you learned how to like properly like control your old bones and swing it around like quickly. You're not strong, but you are able to like navigate it around quite fast. And I think you're having another one of your traditional spars with Sir Squig when he's back. He does take these long journeys every now and again out to see his queen. And you manage to get your sickle around the hilt of his sword and flick it out of his hand and then catch it in the other one.
Yes.
And I think there's a moment where you're almost a little shocked by the fact you managed to catch it. You were aiming to disarm him, but you maybe weren't aiming to catch him. You're like, oh! And then you get it like to him. And like the two of you see this like shock that you had and like both like wind up like laughing. You toss your sword back to him and he kind of like sheathes it. And he's like, that's fantastic. You've learned how to handle your weapon. Now, in our world, it's less about the weapon. And he kind of like, he kind of like holds his sword up a little bit and he's like saying it's like a good weapon makes a good fighter, obviously. A worksmith is nothing without his tools, but in our world, fighting is about the person. I can teach you how to see a person, how to really turn their deepest, darkest parts of them against themselves. I learned it in my time when I served the courts. It is how they fight, and it's how I think that you should fight. Do you wish to learn?
Of course.
Draw your weapon. And the two of you begin to fight again. And, like, you're, like, smacking each other's, like, steel against steel. And then after a moment or two, like, he raises his sword up high. It glows for a second. And then it strikes your sickle. And, like, the sound of steel on steel resonates inside of your head. And you just hear the word idiot echoing inside of your mind.
Oh, very good.
Thank you. And it completely like throws you off for a second, like, and like you become like unbalanced, and then like Squig like wraps his sword, like kind of like wraps the sword on your leg, and like uses one of his back like hooves to kick you down to the ground.
Oh my god! It just smashed some of my bones. You've been kicked by a horse?
No, I have not been kicked by a horse. I don't think you have either.
Well, no, but it breaks bones, bruh.
Like, it's not like a full kick. Oh. Like, he's like he knows his own body. He knows how to like wallop you. It hurts, don't get it wrong, but like, you know, as your like head hits dirt, like you feel like, you know, like that echo vanish, and you're very aware of what it did.
Ah, Christ, I'm old and brittle, you know.
I think he says, I know. But I know you, Gran. We are friends. I know what makes you tick. I know what I could do to really pierce your mind and make you feel terrible. You will not get this opportunity with everything you fight. But with the magic of our world and the magic of my queen, you can channel that into your weapon, and you'll be able to scar their minds. So we're using one of the, I believe it's an Unearthed Arcana.
Still, yeah.
Called Fey Wanderer for Ranger. What it has is the ability to imbue weapons with, in essence, like psychic damage when they do damage. So, what you're very much learning is how to manipulate the creatures in front of you in order to, you know, scar them psychically.
Wait, I didn't get to do a wisdom saving throw, you bitch.
That was because that was Dreadful Strikes, not Blessings of the Court.
Eh.
I too could read the things. Yeah, I think as time passes, like this technique, like learning how to use a weapon is easier than learning how to channel magics that are alien to you. You learn how to channel your natural magic, but learning how to like get an instant read on a creature and turn their deepest, darkest like fears and like things like inner hatreds against themselves, that takes a little bit longer.
Funny that.
And by the time you realize, before you blink, like you're facing another winter, and like you realize that it's the third year of you being here. And since that day in the Glade, you have not heard from the Queen, and you have not heard about going back.
I still trust. I'm just like, well, the time's not right yet. I have not paid my debt. I will just keep on keeping on.
And obviously, among your sparring with Sir Squig, you are still doing chores for this like encampment.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to like little hunts with some of the red caps. You're able to like, you know, you learn a few skills here and there. Like you tend to medicine. Like they realize that's like an actual skill of yours, and they put you in like infirmaries for a while to like look after people, and you learn a little bit about that and their way of medicine and things like that. You are asked to like visit small other encampments and like help people and spread the word, and you kind of like learn your way like around your own tongue, like your own mind and your tongue. You learn how to like quickly like verbally spar with fairies trying to make deals with you.
Mm-hmm.
Like you are already pretty decent at that. That's what caused this whole mess in the first place. But you are able to like do it with a little more confidence. I think that what's happened is, like, as we said, you got more comfortable with that story. You're actually in a position now where you're channeling that. You're confident that this is a skill you have. I'm actually going to say that you are going to gain. You already have. Do you have proficiency in deception?
Deception, yes, I took that as part of the archetype.
Yep. We're going to say that is now expertise in deception.
Woo!
That means you add your proficiency bonus twice to it.
Nice.
So you are a lying machine now. Congratulations.
Woohoo!
I'm going to regret this later.
Yeah.
Time passes, and I think one day, just coming up on the 4-year mark of you being in this camp, Sir Squig returns to you one day and says, I think it's time. My queen has asked to meet you.
Oh.
Are you ready for this?
I like to imagine for at least a while she's had like a pack for the journey set aside and ready. So she gathers the equipment that is now relevant, like a certain armor set and a bow and whatever.
You're working with these people for a while, and you're also learning about, you're learning how to do these things. You're learning how to become like a bit more of a warrior than you used to be. So you are, after a while, like you're able to like, you gain a different armor set, like you gain different equipment. You need stronger stuff than you've had before. And after a while, like, you get it. You get this like armor, and as you say, like all this kit that you need to travel out, and you do. You climb up on the back of Sir Squig.
Oof, intimate.
The two of you ride out, and you travel, some on foot, some on his back, for a week and a half, towards the city.
Oh.
And then, after a moment or two, Sir Squig, after a moment or two, late one day, Sir Squig and you are, right at the base of the tree. I think he says, "It's about time we had a conversation. A long time ago, my queen made a sacrifice. She lives, but she lives in eternal agony on behalf of someone she loves.
Oh.
Someone else was supposed to bear this burden, this cross. She bears it for them every day. We need to be close enough to the city and to her for this to work. She's imprisoned within there. We fight on her behalf. Now, are you ready to make your way into the city with me?"
I just nod silently.
Then follow me. Sir Squig takes you around the back of the city and through a series of tunnels, weaving them in among the roots. You make your way into the city of the Summer Court. The Summer Court city, it is beautiful on the inside. Everything is made of stained glass and beautiful marbling, and everywhere you go you can smell delicious food and scents you've never even experienced. All of your senses are overwhelmed by the beauty of this.
Should I be
you fear
protecting my identity as a mortal? Is that going to stick out?
I think that you are very much given you're told to put your hood up and stuff like that while you're here. It's never been explicitly said, but you have been traveling in secret. You've learned to do that.
Yeah.
Squig takes you through the city, and every time there's people coming, Squig very much straightens up and takes the charge of the conversations. So he very much is "Oh, all right, hello," and does enough greetings that you're able to kind of keep moving past him and stuff like that, and then catch up with him later.
Mm-hmm.
So you do very little interactions with the people here.
Yeah.
And then you see lots of those dog soldiers walking around here. And eventually you make your way right into the base of the tree, and you start to spiral upwards, climbing up these spiral staircases until it feels like you have walked up thousands upon thousands of stairs. And again, you see hounds and such walking by, but none of them seem to take a notice of Sir Squig. And eventually, you make yourselves into a plain white room. Plain white marble. There's nothing in it. No anything. It's circular by nature, and it's just empty, but made of this beautiful carved marble. You, Sir Squig just says, "Stand in the center."
And I do.
You feel the cold stone as you walk through, but as you make to the center of the room begins to feel warm. And then eventually you hear a voice inside of your head, and the voice says, "Someone new."
Yes?
What's your name?
You may call me Gran.
Gran, it's you. I've been waiting to hear from you for a long time.
Oh, I didn't mean to keep you waiting.
It's okay. You need to go back. You need to see the world again for what it is.
I nod.
I can't. The voice sounds strained.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like it's in agony and trying its hardest to keep focus. It says, "It takes a long time for me to even build up the energy for these sort of conversations. Go back. Protect everything.
But
You have to trust in yourself, trust in your friends, and protect them with everything you can."
I would love to, but I don't know how to go back.
I think, as you say that, you see something in the corner of the room. It definitely wasn't there before. It's a small red mushroom.
Huh.
And you kind of blink and it duplicates. And the mushrooms are slowly spreading round and round this circular room. And I think the voice says, protect it all. You do not know how much weight is on your shoulders, creature.
I'll try.
And I think with that, like, the last mushroom pops in and the ground vanishes and you are falling.
Oh, Christ.
And, like, you are falling through, like, the inside of a tree trunk. And as you fall, like, you see below you this great blue fire. And as you fall past it, like, you see a figure within the fire. Like, this woman in the fire. You get no you can't see any features of her through the flickering blue. But, like, you can definitely see its head spot you and follow you. And then when you land, you're on a path in a swamp.
Insight check. Is it definitely where I came from?
Survival check.
Survival. Whatever. It's still a 25.
Yes. Like, it's like, you're like, this has been a long time since you've seen it, but, like, the air tastes different. It's like, there's always this sort of, like, sweetness to the air in the other world. But here, it's gross and mucky, and it's warm, and you see a familiar log that previously a swarm of, like, centipedes was blown away from. And as you kind of, like, look around, you see the bodies of 4 dead centipedes that you recognize as your kills.
Oh my god. Oh, that's right. It was back to my time.
But more importantly, the paths that you saw when Euripides sent you to the other world, you can see them.
Yeah.
And, like, you know how to find these paths, and you know how to find what you want by following them. You know the way back to the camp.
I'm gonna go back.